ever feel like no matter what you do, you can't quite escape the chalkiness in your blends? Oh, I was there too. I know the struggle. And actually fixing this issue is less complicated than you might think. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you what creates chalkiness and why, and how to fix it. Before I tell you that though, I need to explain what the problem is using this. This is called a Chinese finger trap. Most people will try to get this off their finger by pulling the fingers away from the trap, right? But doing so, the trap gets tighter and tighter. The same thing happens in miniature painting. We think we are doing something to fix the chalkiness issue, but what we're achieving is the exact opposite. And I used to be stuck here, doing the things that would create more chalkiness instead of actually fixing it. I thought I was fixing it, but I wasn't. In my experience, there are two main things that create chalkiness. These two factors work together to make our lives truly miserable. Let me explain. Acrylic paint is basically pigment, aka the color, and a binder, aka the medium or the glue that holds the pigment all together when it dries. When you add a lot of water to your paint, you still have the same color particles, but you water down the glue that's supposed to stick them together. So when it dries, the pigments sit loosely on the surface and they're not able to form a smooth layer like we see in the base coats. And this creates that dusty, chalky look. So how do we fix this? How the fuck do we get out of this finger trap? You fix the problems that are causing chalkiness in the first place, starting from the consistency. We are so used to the two thin coat things. Most of the times we tend to overestimate the quantity of water we need to add to our paint in order to blend two layers together. We use too much water, we create chalkiness, we try to fix that chalkiness with even more layers, we create the opposite effect, more chalkiness. That's a fucking. And this is also made so much worse by the fact that lighter colors will likely contain more white and gray pigments, which are notoriously bad. Just you need to think about thinning your paints, not in how much water you actually add, but in the terms of opacity, aka how covering is your paint. Like you see on this chart, on the left we have full opacity, the consistency you would use to base coat. And on the right, you have full transparency. The trick to blend smoothly without chalkiness is using a consistency that's more on the left side of the continuum. If we dilute less our paint, we can still cover the harsh line between the two layers without having to deal with super thin paints that 80% of the time turns into chalkiness. This all boils down to keeping things clean and in order. There are ways to take away the chalkiness you created, but it takes a lot of time. It looks ugly. It has a very long ugly face, which might affect your motivation to actually fix the chalkiness. So the best practice is to skip all that and not create chalkiness in the first place, but just keeping it clean from the start. And how you do that, Alice? How? You just first block the colors with opaque layers of paint, and then you use the strong glaze consistency to blend on the edges. Avoid as much as possible to touch the paint between the layers. Avoid wet blending and stuff like that. This way you're gonna keep everything clean and neat and in order, and it's gonna be pleasant to the eye and not send you in an existential crisis. On my channel, I have many videos about this topic, and I will link some in the description. But if you want to learn more about how this will allow you to stop struggling with blending once and for all, I made an entire painting course on just that. A deep dive that's impossible to make on YouTube. So improve, support the channel, and check out the link in the description. So less diluted paint means no chalkiness. Simple, right? Well, no, because like I said in the beginning, there are two factors that contribute to creating chalkiness. One is consistency, what's the other? You see, when you try to blend a layer, you will likely move the brush back and forth like this, feathering the paint out. But this motion is a death sentence if not done properly. This is something so important and it's barely talked about, which makes me really mad. If you're trying to blend a layer, you cannot just go there and stab the surface with your brush. I mean, you can, but no one is gonna be happy about it. This is why you need to learn one of the most important yet overlooked skill in miniature painting, and that is regulate brush pressure. The first thing that you need to do is become aware of which brush pressure you are using, picking up on the visual cues both on your brush and on the marks you're making with your brush. Please download the cheat sheet I put for you in the description. Test your brushstroke on some plasticker strips or on some spare bases and see how the lines change with different pressures applied. That seems so obvious with lines, but it's so less obvious with blending. And that's why people struggle with it so much and struggle with creating chalkiness and dusty finish. Because most of the times we are pressing too hard with the brush, and that affects how the paint will adhere to the surface. I used to struggle with this a lot, and the worst part is that I wasn't aware of it. I would just paint, try to fix the chalkiness. I wasn't aware of the mistakes that I was making, and nobody was talking about the topic as well, so I was kind of stuck, you know? But fortunately for you, you have me. Let's go back to the footage of the blending process. See how the bristles of my brush are very gently touching the surface? That's the key to blending, and also blending fast, because you're making way less mistakes by being delicate. Be delicate, like a tiny little rose. When you look at pretty much every creator on this platform, you'll see a pattern in the brushstroke and the pressure that they use with their brush. The bristles are barely touching the surface. The good news is regulating brush pressure is just a motor skill, and you can pick it up by just practicing. And of course, I have some exercises in my course that you can do as well. On the other hand, there is something that we can just practice. It's something that you kind of need to understand, and when you do, you're going to be able to actually paint realistic miniatures. So if you want to know what that is, I explain it all in this video, where I show you a very simple painting approach that's gonna allow you to create highlights and shadows on your miniature. I'll see you there. You see past me there. I recorded it. That was before the